Namaste, dear friends. Welcome to the 16th class of the Bhagavad Gita. We shall begin our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Bhagwan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, Beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, Saints and sages of all religions, humbly we bow at thy feet. Beloved Lord Krishna, thou art the essence of everything. Help me to realize thee, to feel thee in every fiber of my being, in every thought, in every emotion, in every beat of my heart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us now invoke the presence of the Gurus by singing the hymn to Brahma and a chant. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Dhyanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tatvamasyadilakshayam Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tvam Namami Tvameva Mata Japita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Jasakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Let's gaze at the spiritual eye and let us call upon Lord Shiva. Shiva is our own soul, the silence of our own being, our own inner center and stillness. Let's invoke his presence in the here and now. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya, Om Namo 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 Shivaya. Let's be in our own silence. Take a few moments to gaze up at the spiritual eye, to be here and now. God is approachable and tangible in this moment. He is within us. All we need to do is to turn our attention within. He ever waits for us, that we, His children, call upon Him and turn towards Him. In Him lies our fulfillment and our entire being. Om. So, dear friends, we continue on our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 2. And in the last couple of classes, we studied how Krishna is advising Arjuna as to not to grieve. And he says that you shouldn't grieve because the soul self cannot be killed. It cannot become wet with water. It cannot be burnt with fire. It cannot be slain. It is immutable. It is unchangeable. It is ever existent. And then he goes on to say that even if you think that the soul is born and it does die, even then you should not grieve, because you should accept the fact that whatever is born has to die, and then whatever dies has to be born again. So considering this fact again, you should not grieve. He says that it is, it is useless to bemoan the operation of the cosmic law. Because of our own desires and attachments, we have destined ourselves to take multiple bodies until all those desires are fulfilled or they are transcended. So once that is the case, and any wise person accepting this truth will stop grieving and will actually start to do what he is meant to do. So for all of us also, even if we do realize that, yes, this is how the ego has to go through various incarnations until it realizes its soul self. No point grieving as to why is it so. But the point is to ask ourselves, what do we now need to do to change this situation, if at all we want to change the situation? So here, Master says that use your willpower, use your determination, and use the practical steps to remove yourself away from desires and attachments. Since all this cycle of reincarnation has been somewhere initiated by our own desire, therefore it is we who have to now eventually turn away from desires, or complete or fulfill those desires, and be free from wanting more. So a point comes in the evolution of the ego where, where the ego from a tamasic tendencies becomes rajasic, and then becomes sattvic, and then it knows how to utilize the universal principles to get whatever it wants. So as the soul, comes to the Kshatriya and the Brahmin state, it knows that it has power and it can manifest from the universe whatever it wants. But then after this point, actually the soul realizes that all the pain and suffering lies in the wanting itself. So here is that turn that comes when the soul realizes, it matures and realizes that all this wanting is actually trapping me into this cycle of birth and death and all the suffering that ensues. And therefore, at this time, the soul wants to discard the wanting itself. Means it wants to transcend desire. And it is only at this point, and it's not easy to transcend desire. So what Master says is, first modify your desires. simplify your desires, keep to the necessary necessities, and then also use your available time and energy and to now go into the higher realms of spiritual life. And this is what is being advised by Krishna and by Master. He says, it is important that you remove yourself from identification with the body and to tune yourself into the spirit, because it is this identification with the body which actually causes us to desire the things of this world. So it's because we think that we are this body. So this happens because of avidya and asmita. Avidya, the ignorance of who we really are, and asmita is the sense of I-ness to this body, mind, personality. So when that happens, we become identified with the body. And once we are identified with the body and we live in this world as this separate individual, then automatically the desires and attachment to this world begins. So therefore, the way out is to actually start to identify yourself with your soul rather than with the ego. And that, how is that going to happen? That is going to happen when you have experience of your soul self through direct contact with God, through direct contact with spirit in meditation. And that is the advice that we are being given here. Now, Guruji beautifully says, he says, the average person suffering from ignorance and material attachment lives a very narrow life. He is born, he marries, and he dies. Now, does that sound familiar to all of us? Yes, of course it does. Look all around you, it's all familiar thing. So then, what we should do, he says, he must unavoidably, the normal man should unavoidably repeat the same experiences until by meditation and identification with spirit, he gains eternal freedom. So the door or the exit door is being shown to us as to how do we transcend all this desire and attachment that we have developed by living in this body. Once the immortal soul loses its body identification, it is free. So this statement is for all of us. We all want to be free. And how are we going to be free? When we can rise above our identification with this body through which we are living. And let's just remember a couple of verses ago, Krishna is telling Arjuna that your body is nothing but a garment. So why are we so attached to the clothes that we are wearing? Now think of the clothes in your cupboard. If I'm sure most of you are attached to at least certain set of clothes in your cupboard. If we are so attached to the clothes in the cupboard, it's so natural for us to be attached to the body that we are wearing, because a point has come where we have started thinking that we are the body. And this is the delusion that we have to break. And this delusion will be broken then when in meditation you understand yourself as more than the body, more than the breath, and more than the mind. And just 1-2 episodes of meditation or 1-2 little experiences will not expand your consciousness enough to know that you are the omnipresent soul. Therefore, the meditative act has to be repeated over and over and over again. All your heart, all your mind, all your strength has to be put into that act. All your devotion, faith, and surrender has to be put into that act. Only then, with our self-effort and with the grace of Guru and God, our identification and attachment to the body existence is broken. And it is then only that we will be set free in spirit. It is then only that we would not need to take other bodies as our garments, as new, fresh garments. Guruji says clearly, if you want results of freedom, don't waste time in material pursuits and speculations. Rather, meditate deeply. He also goes on to explain that, at physical death, what happens is the body is left behind here in the physical realm. But the mind, the chitta, it continues in the subtle body, the sukshma sharira, it continues into the astral world. So physical death means astral birth. And then according to the karma on earth, the length of the stay in the astral world is decided. So then astral death happens and physical birth happens, means the soul is reborn again, encased in causal and astral bodies. It is now reborn again on earth, where it also gains another layer of the physical body. So all this cycle of a physical death and astral birth, and astral death and physical birth. For an unenlightened soul or the ego self, this cycle has to repeat itself more and more multiple times, because unless we realize that firstly the desires are useless, and secondly the desires are catching us into this net of birth and death, until we realize that this cycle is going to continue. It's only once you know that you are not the ego self, you are the soul self, that you do not want any more desires and you just want to be one with spirit and you want to be the spirit itself, that this cycle will end for us. So again, Guruji says, no point lamenting this fate. Even if you have understood by now that you are bound by your karma and the cycle of reincarnation, and you have understood by now that desire and attachment have encased you in multiple bodies, even then, don't grieve. The fact that you have understood it, you have acknowledged it, means that you are on the path to freedom, because now you will be careful as to what you are desiring. Now you will be careful in your spiritual practices. And now, by the grace and the power of the Guru and your, of course, efforts, you will try to at least walk the footsteps of self-realized masters who are eternally free in spirit. So at least you are looking in the right direction. You are looking towards the light. And that is the most important step from a worldly to a spiritual facet, is that at least you start to look towards the light, and you know that the light is your direction and the light is your goal. And this worldly life is going to lead to more and more suffering over and over again. Okay. Use all your powers, Guruji says, to identify yourself with the omniscient spirit. This brings us to the next shloka, which is shloka number 28. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidhananevya tatra ka paridevana. सभी प्राणियों का प्रारंभ छिपा हुआ है, मध्य प्रकट है तथा अंत भी अगोचर है। हे भारत अर्जुन, तब इस सत्य का शोक क्यों किया जाए? The beginning of all creatures is veiled, the middle is manifested, and the end again is imperceptible. O Bharata Arjuna, why then lament this truth? So again, he's saying, even though this is the case, that we do not know, we do not remember our past lives, it is veiled from us, and we do not know what's going to happen to us in future, and even that is veiled from us. Even then, even understanding this, just accept this reality and do not grieve. So let's understand this a little more. So we know that there are science, we say, has done a lot of advancement, but all of physical science cannot really reveal to us this veiled reality, which is before our physical birth and after our physical death. So all the physical sciences can do is they're trying to evaluate the current state of manifested existence of creation. And of course, it's a good job that they are doing, but they are incapable of being able to experiment or explore with the unveiled aspects of our being. And it is only spiritual science which can help you to understand these facets. And how does spiritual science help? Because it goes beyond the body, it goes beyond the layer of the mind. The physical science will work with the intellectual levels, your mental levels, and your physical reality. But spiritual science will take you into deeper states of consciousness. It will take you to pure Chaitanya or pure consciousness itself, from where it is easy to see the continuity of life from birth to birth or from death to death. And that is why spiritual science can give us a larger vision, a larger spectrum of who we really are and what was in our past and what lies in our future. Okay. Beautifully, Guruji explains. He says, the stage of the earth is well set with food, air, water, and fire. Man has to study nature to his best advantage and to act out his part according to the innate guidance of his intuition and by the imitation of his fellow beings. The great dramatist director of this mystery play of lives on the stage of earth remains hidden somewhere, everywhere, directing the play of his children, the actors only through the suggestions of conscience and innate understanding. So now here we are, this earth life is being compared to a stage, and God is the director, the dramatist, the lyricist, the screenplay, the writer, the actor, means all of us is also part of God. The actor, the singer, the dancer, the one who comes on stage, the one who leaves on stage. He is everything. He is everywhere. But if God is everywhere, why do we not see him? This is an important question that we must clearly understand, that God is supposed to be in every atom of creation and even beyond. Then why do we not perceive him? So the answer to that is that we see this world through the agency of our senses. Our five senses are very, very limited. Our vision can only see a particular wavelength of light. Our ears can hear only a particular frequency range of sound. And same for all the other senses. And God is much vaster and infinite and eternal beyond the scope of the collection, the data collection of our senses. The second point is that we use our mental faculties to know God. And again, God is beyond the mind. He is the very light that shines on the mind, makes the mind function. But the mind cannot perceive God. So one has to transcend mind to be able to perceive God. And that is why God remains, although he's everywhere, but he remains hidden to our perception. And the third reason for not being able to see God as it is that we are used to looking for things in objective nature. Means we want to see, okay, this is a phone, this is a wall, this is a door, this is a table, and so on. So we want to see God as an objective reality apart from ourselves, which he is not. He is the very subject of who you are. Your very I-ness is God. Your very existence itself is God. And because of our false sense of identification with objects and thinking that God would be another object, just like any other physical object, we miss him completely, although he is our very own self. And that's why if we know these things, it helps us to come closer to our own reality and to see God everywhere. Now, just feel the space, the air around you. Do you think this is empty? No, it is not. The space has air in it, but even the space itself is impregnated with the cosmic intelligence. There is intelligence present even in the emptiness that you feel around. And that is where, so God is everywhere. So Ramakrishna Paramahansa would say something like, when in the deepest monsoons, when monsoon rains are so intense that raindrops falling from the sky, they kind of pervade the entire space, that all the other things then become, less prominent. And all you can say is that, see that dense rainfall happening, which is present everywhere and occupying the entire space. Something like the matrix, which is occupying every, a nook and corner of space. So God is invisible to our senses, but is occupying all the space, and he is even beyond the fifth element of etheric space. He is everywhere. So is thinking that, oh no, does God exist? Is he worried about me? Does he care about me? Is he watching over me? These are questions that people who have not experienced even a little bit of the presence of the divine presence in the form of grace, in the form of blessing, or in the form of a protection in their life, or somehow they have felt the love. So people who haven't felt or who do not want to feel will say that God doesn't exist and he cannot be found. But anybody who's had even a little experience a personal experience of the touch of the divine, knows that God definitely exists and God is all pervading and he is closer to us. He's nearer than our own thoughts and feelings, that he is our very own. And that's where, where our direction of understanding should move. And when Swami Vivekananda asked Ramakrishna Paramahansa this question, have you seen God? Before he came to Ramakrishna, he went to multiple teachers, to multiple saints and gurus, and he asked this question to them, have you seen God? And none of them could really, practically say. They were only theoretically, kind of quoting the scripture. But it was Ramakrishna Paramahansa who said, yes, I have seen him. And yes, he is closer to me even than you are. And with that one touch of, a divine contact, Ramakrishna Paramahansa was able to transfer that divine vision onto Vivekananda, just as our Param Guru Sri Yukteswarji Maharaj, he was just by the touch on the chest of Yogananda, he was able to transfer the divine vision of ecstasy, of omnipresence to our Guru Yogananda. So all of this, so as you progress on the path, ask yourself, is my faith in God increasing? Am I still doubting? So that will tell you as to, your communion, your contact with God, where you are standing in that sense. So in all theistic religions, means in all religions which believe in God, your personal connection with God will slowly improve as you progress spiritually. And even for the religions who are atheistic, if they will not like to use the word God, but they will also accept that there is a universal intelligence, and by probing correctly through Jnana Yoga into that universal intelligence, they can come to the conclusion that there is this, higher supreme being. Whether or not they can see him or talk to him is a different story, but they also will, or at least what else can be done to them is that at least they will say, okay, I have the power. So they will eventually turn to the power of the egoic self, which is say, okay, whatever is happening in this world, I am doing. That is what the atheist does. So even if an individual has perfect faith in his own power, that will eventually lead him to the fact that his power is borrowed from the universal power. So in whichever way, you want to try and hold it, any intelligent person who is trying to probe into the truth will find some evidence of truth according to his own understanding. So we, as Master said, use all your willpower, use your determination, do not waste your time. If you are seeking truth, if you are seeking freedom, then just check if your life is organized around this goal or not. On the one hand, if you're saying, I want God, on the other hand, all you're doing is partying and you are in material pursuits all the time, then of course, these two things are not going to match. So first set your direction and your goal, and then organize your life around that so that you can achieve what you have set your heart upon. Okay. Man should not desire knowledge of the mysteries of God's creation in preference to the knowledge of God himself. So now, why is this so? Why should I not want to know about creation, but I should want to know about God? Why is that distinction? Now, the physical scientist will completely disagree, because to him, the presence of God itself is questionable. But for the devotee, only by inquiring into God himself, because only then he will know that he himself is also made in the image of God, and only then can he transcend the suffering of this world. Knowledge of the created things will not help him to rise completely over all emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual suffering. Yes, physical knowledge does give him some power to rise over physical and mental suffering, but it does not give him the power to free himself from suffering forever. That suffering can never come back. It is only and only the knowledge of God, or one own self as an image of God, that you will be taken out of suffering. So therefore, we all have limited time on this earth in this particular lifetime. how are we using that time? Am I just speculating? Am I just intellectualizing? Am I just, reading book after book without understanding? So important is, it's not wrong to read book after book, but are you understanding the words that are given therein? Am I realizing the presence of God in my life or not? That is the more important thing. The true devotee loves God so ardently that he is compelled to manifest himself in the devotional consciousness. The devotee leaves unto God the right to reveal or not to reveal the secrets of his kingdom. So here beautifully Master has mentioned Nishkam Karma. So he says, if you love God, then you will not condition your love and ask for favors, or is say that, God, you have to reveal yourself to me, otherwise I'm not going to pray to you anymore, or I'm not going to love you anymore. That's not how it works. You have to just give yourself completely. You say, God, I need you. God, I want you. God, I will do my best to find, to seek, to know thee. But it is up to you when, where, how you will reveal yourself unto me. I am your devotee. I am your child. I am your disciple. And I give you my I offer my life to you. And I will become whole in that very sense, surrender and offering. I will become one with thee. That is the hidden secret. So why does the devotee not demand any specific outcome or a specific revelation? Because the devotee understands that as he or she completely surrenders, he or she is automatically transcending the little I. And as soon as the little I is transcended, the devotee will merge into the large I, and automatically the revelation of God will happen in his life. The only way to know the beginning and end of all things is to contact God. This wonderful drama of life, this mystery play, this visible effect of universal existence could never have come into being without a cause. Having existed, it could not be annihilated into non-existence. Something cannot spring from nothing. Neither can something end in nothing. All enigmas can be solved by the development of intuition, the divine medium of communication between God and man. This brings us to the next shloka, which is shloka number 29. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidena vaddati tathaiva chanyaha आश्चर्यवच्चै नमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्। कुछ लोग आत्मा को आश्चर्य से देखते हैं, इसी प्रकार दूसरे इस अद्भुत बताते हैं। कुछ और लोग आत्मा के विषय में सुनते हैं कि ये आश्चर्यजनक है, तथा कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जो आत्मा के विषय में सब कुछ सुनकर भी इसे बिल्कुल नहीं समझते। Some behold the soul in amazement. Similarly, others describe it as marvelous. Still others listen about the soul as wondrous. And there are others who, even after hearing all about the soul, do not comprehend it at all. So in this shloka, Krishna has pointed out three common ways in which the soul it reveals itself. And what are the three ways? It says some devotees behold it. Behold it means being able to see it. So as seeing as light, we know that the super consciousness or God has 8 main aspects, out of which light is one and a main aspect. Then he says some people amaze in wonder. So how can anybody wonder without understanding? So here is the wisdom aspect of the soul. So through wisdom, the soul will reveal itself. And the third is that some devotees listen about the Atman and go into rapture. So again, as a sound, being able to hear the divine. And we all know how we can hear the divine is through the Om technique of meditation, where we can directly hear the cosmic sound of Om, which is the sound of the cosmic machinery. And so in these ways, different devotees can directly behold the soul. And the soul is not, again, soul or God, don't think of as away from you. It is your own very being. So you will know your atman through these ways. And when you meditate on a regular basis, you are able to hear the Om sound. You are able to behold the light at the spiritual eye to whatever degree that is. And your wisdom, you find that as your meditation becomes better and better, two important things happen, as Sri Yukteswarji said. One is that your joy level starts to increase on a daily basis. And the other thing is that you start to get answers to your questions that you put up to the universe. And there is that wisdom, that intuitive aspects that starts to build up. So these are the common ways we are going to be able to withhold the soul. Now, it is important, the soul, as we said, will not come to you as a revelation of the mind or the intellect. It has to come to through the power of intuition. The intuitive capability is a gift from the divine, and all of us have it. It is by that key of intuition that we perceive God firsthand. Now, the fact that we are not able to access our sixth sense very commonly is because we have not trained our intuitive faculty. Secondly, our mind and intellect is so restless that it covers whatever, even when we hear the voice of our inner conscience, then we are not able to hear it correctly, and also we don't have the courage to follow it. So all of these factors cause us not to be able to know the innate wisdom of our own soul. And so what do? When we meditate, we quieten the mind. We raise the energy through the chakras, we open our heart and we open our spiritual eye. And then we become like a radio set, as Master says, that you project your question through your spiritual eye into the ether. You focus at the spiritual eye after your meditation. And whatever query you have, whatever things you want to place at the feet of the divine, you can. And then in your open heart, you receive your intuitive response. Now, this has to be done regularly. Only then you will be able to develop this power. And don't think that you want to develop this power because you want to know the thoughts of others, or you want to look into your future, or you want to have some extra powers. That is not the real purpose of intuition. The real purpose of intuition is to know God, is to know your own soul. And that is the highest purpose of why we should be actually developing our intuition. Okay. All power of knowing borrows its ability from intuition. The highest expression of intuition is that by which the soul knows itself. The knower, knowing, and known exist as one. So the mind cannot comprehend it, that how the knower, the knowing, and the known is one. But through intuition, you know that everything that exists is one reality, and therefore you can easily perceive this oneness. Progressively unfolding by the practice of right techniques of meditation, intuition makes possible the experience of the various manifestations of the soul, and ultimately the realization of oneself as soul, one with spirit. This brings us to the next shloka, which is shloka number 30. Dehi nityam vadyohayam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochi tumharhasi. हे भरत वंशज अर्जुन, वह जो समस्त शरीरों में निवास करता है सदा अवध्य है, इसलिए किसी सृष्ट जीव के लिए शोक मत करो. O Bharat Arjuna, the one who dwells in the bodies of all is eternally inviolable. Grieve not, therefore, for any created being. This is a direct instruction from Krishna to Arjuna. So he is speaking actually to all of us devotees. That the two important things that are being said here, that there is one who dwells in the bodies of all. So There is one power, which is the electricity of all these bodies. And it is that power which is running this universe and all created beings. And secondly, it's because of this, if you have this knowledge, then you will not grieve when then a limited, the body is dropped at death. So just for example, in your house, you have tube lights, you have bulbs, you have multiple electrical appliances. If one bulb blows out, then you are not grieving, because you know the electricity is there, and as soon as you put another bulb, that will start to glow with light. So because the real power behind all your electrical gadgets is the electricity itself. Similarly, the real power that is enlivening all of our bodies, of all the created beings, the animal kingdom, plant kingdom, everything that is in existence, is God's power. And therefore, it is again useless to grieve when one little aspect, the physical aspect, dies away, withers away, degenerates, or it disappears from your eyes. Okay. Just as a dreamer remains unchanged, even though the dreamer sees variety of dreams. So night after night, year after year, you have seen so many dreams. But you as a dreamer remain unchanged. Similarly, it is said that the soul living through incarnations through different bodies still remains the same. And all those incarnations are like dreams, and they're all made of the cosmic mind stuff. Just as our dreams are made up of nothing but our own mind stuff, similarly, this large cosmic dream drama is made of the cosmic mind stuff. And therefore, we have to understand again that the power behind the created being cannot be annihilated. So therefore, even when the created being itself is annihilated, there is no true loss, and therefore there is no need to lament. Okay. Knowing that the bodies of all creatures are spumescent bubbles on God's cosmic dream ocean of creation, there is no cause to lament when any cosmic dream manifested body is withdrawn into the infinite dreamless dreamer. So we are all, egos are like just little bubbles, and the ocean of existence, it's eons of time and unlimited space. In that, what is the status of a bubble? It will come into existence and it will blow away. But that does not mean that it is completely annihilated, because even the bubble is made up of water, which is then the same water which makes up the ocean. Therefore, if the water bubble understands that it is not the body of the bubble, but its essence is a water, then when the bubble is blown away, it will not be, in stress or in suffering. And if all the bubbles around it also understand that all these bubbles are, just temporary phenomenon, though even the surrounding bubbles will not lament when one particular bubble goes back into its existence as pure water. So we are all pure Brahman. We are existence, consciousness, bliss itself. We are temporarily living through these bodies. We are interacting with each other so that this cosmic drama is, is being played out, and this Leela is happening. But eventually, what is our essence? We are not these bodies. We are the spirit, Brahman itself. And we, as that soul nature, can never be annihilated. Similarly, all the people we love around us, they cannot be annihilated. Only their bodies may drop. And knowing this truth, being centered in this truth, one should not grieve over anybody, living or dead. Grieving has no purpose. Now again, this does not mean so. So here, Master will tell us that, how the sensitiveness of a person decides as to how much that person grieves or is able to calmly take the difficulties of life. So he says that if you're a very sensitive person, then a little loss, or a loss of a loved one, or even a small failure in life, you will become unstable with it. You will keep lamenting about it. You will keep crying over it, and you will not be able to convert that failure into a success, because you are just fixed into that one thing that you feel is real over your loss. If you're a relatively lesser sensitive person, you will acknowledge the loss, but kind of, life will go on for you. On the other hand, if you are a yogi, and as a yogi, you have understood and accepted the impermanence of life, so you will know that all lives, including your own little life, is impermanent. And this is how the world functions. This is a universal law. And understanding that, you will be centered in yourself, you will remain stable. And even though great saints also will shed a few tears over their loved ones, knowing that this temporary role is over, but in deep down in their hearts, their stability is not moved. They are unshaken and unmoved. And that's how that's how the suffering is, removed. If all of us want to rise above suffering, and we know that bereavement or loss of a loved one is suffering, eventually we will have to come to the point of the yogi where deep down within we do not move, or we are not unstable. We stand unshaken in the midst of storms. So with this, I'm reminded of Lahiri Mahashay's life. So Lahiri Mahashay had two sons. He had three daughters also. So he had 5 children in all. And it is said that one of the daughters was sick, and his wife Kashi Moni was, kind of complaining to his husband that you are a yogi and you are a saint and you are a guru and you have all these powers and you treat others. Why don't you do something for our daughter? Of course, the daughter was married and she was with her in-laws. And Lahiri Mahashay he was very stable, and he knew that this impermanence is going to arise, as in he knew that the daughter would have to die according to whatever law of karma was there. So he did not really intervene. Now, for most of us, from the worldly point of view, it may seem that it is cruel for a father not to intervene, having so much knowledge. But it is said that because on the insistence of Kashi Muni, he did send some medication for the daughter, but he clearly knew that this is how it's just going to eventually leave this earthly plane. So the point here is that he did not lose his inner stability. His inner countenance remains centered, and he did not dive into sorrow as most of us would on the death of a loved one. And all Krishna is telling us in this entire chapter, we've been hearing this over and over again: don't grieve, don't grieve, it is foolish to grieve. So we must eventually realize that becoming sorrowful or grieving is not solving any purpose. Why? Because this drama is just a drama. It is a dream. Don't take it so seriously and don't take it for so real. The only reality is you yourself, the witness consciousness. All these passing phenomena around you are bound to change. The problem is that impermanence is difficult for us to accept. But the day we are able to know that everything is impermanent, whatever joyful situation you are in, even that will pass. Whatever sorrowful situation you are in, even that will pass. Now, what happens to us is when we are in a joyful situation, we just want to hold on to it. We don't want it to end. We want to repeat it. We want more of it. We want more variety of it. And that's where the desire and the attachment things start to work its, net, its tentacles. And that's when we are caught. And that's when we need more and more bodies to work all of that out. So if we were to, quietly acknowledge the impermanence of life, on the one hand, we would not grieve. On the other hand, we would not keep desiring more of pleasure, because once we desire more of pleasure, we are going to have more of pain as well. And so keeping ourselves detached from this passing dream drama, and yet being able to perform our role diligently. Now, this is a double-edged sword. It's not so easy. We all know it's not so easy. So on the one hand, we play the part that we have been given with all our available powers and talents. On the other hand, in the inside, we are connected so much with God, we completely accept that this is a passing phenomenon and that I am the pure soul which cannot be touched by any of this, and I am bliss itself. Sat Chit Anand. I am that Anand because of which I am able to enjoy the various, passing drama of life. We think that we are able to enjoy this life because of the objects of this world. We think that the objects of the world have the property to give us happiness. It is not so. It is my own bliss which is projected upon these objects, and then it allows my mind to experience some happiness. So we forget that we are complete and fulfilled in ourselves, that we are of the nature of joy itself, and we start to look for joy or bliss in things of this world. Now, this is again a mistaken identity, and all we need to do is turn within ourselves and know that I am pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss. I am Sat, Chit, and Ananda itself, and nothing less. So how do we understand this? Again, meditate, meditate, meditate. There's not going to be any shortcut, and it's not an overnight phenomenon. But the fact, again, that you have turned in this direction means you are eventually going to get it. Yeah. So that's true for all of us. Yeah. Guruji says, just as we don't grieve when someone changes their house or residence, the wise don't grieve when the soul changes its bodily residence. So it's just as simple. For the wise, for the yogi, for the saint, it is as simple as that. That is why they do not grieve. Grief is born of ignorance, attachment, and selfish love, because the ordinary man sees only the present frame of existence. So here is the cause. We must analyze and introspect. Why am I grieving? Because I'm attached to this body. Because of ignorance of that this body has just come into my life only for a short period of time. It has passed karma. This soul has lived from eons. It has had multiple relatives. And in the future also, this same soul will go into different families, will have multiple relatives. But because I'm ignorant of this fact, therefore I think this is mine. And so the I, me, mine is the problem here. When you start to, get attached to it. And also selfish love. So there's a lot of difference between selfish love and unconditional love. Most human love is selfish love. It's because in your company, I feel good. In your company, certain, conveniences of my life are offered. Therefore, I love you. It's not unconditional. It's difficult for a human to say to another human, you do whatever you want to do, whether you help me or not, you are with me or not, I will continue to love you unconditionally. Very difficult. But that is the reason for our distress and our suffering as well. So when we are, and how do we develop this unconditional love for humans? This will come when you are first able to love God. When you love God so fully and you understand his all-pervading nature of love, that everything is made of love, then instead of loving the person or the personality, you will start loving the divine presence in that person. And only then will you be able to unconditionally love. Till then, we will have to go through suffering because we think this is mine and that this person should be in my control. Why is this person not listening to me? But ask yourself, why should another person listen to you? Nobody belongs to us. We belong to no one. Larry Marsh has clearly said, we all belong to God and God belongs to us. If we stick to this reality, we will be happy forever. But we must remember it over and over again. We forget it. Every morning we forget it. Therefore, every morning you can get up and tell God, God, I love you. I belong to you. And I surrender this life, which is already yours, but I consciously want to give it to you, So you have to play this game with the Lord. The Lord knows everything. The Lord is everything. But you, because you think you are an individual, therefore, from that aspect, you need to offer yourself every day to him. You have to remember him or her as Divine Mother. You have to consciously keep calling. You have to consciously keep surrendering. And then you will start to then only enjoy this drama of life instead of grieving. Because when somebody dies, you will know that your relationship to God has not been severed. That the one who really loves you is still with you. That omnipresent consciousness is the only real lover. That this consciousness, this God is the father behind the father, the mother behind the mother, the friend behind the friend. and the lover behind the lover. So try and contact that one lover behind all lovers, and then you will not grieve and cry when the little body of someone around you is gone, because your love is maintained. Your contact with universal love, unconditional love, is not severed. Okay. The Gita does not teach us to be heartless, to forget friends or obliterate their memory, but merely to avoid unreasonable feelings of bereavement and useless lamentation. It is not good to mourn ignorantly for loved ones whom death has taken away, and thus send them sad vibrations, or to try to keep them earthbound, or to disturb them in the astral world. It is God who gives us children and friends. We should be grateful so long as we have them, and grateful for our memories of them when it suits the divine planner to remove them to another plane of existence. So whoever comes into your life temporarily, whether it is a friend who's not dying, but he's living your life because he has something else to do, or if someone is in your life and he or she dies, then what is the attitude that we should say? We should thank God that thank you for giving me the opportunity to befriend this soul and to love this soul and to serve this soul. Because only by having these souls around me was I able to perceive my own power to love. And not saying that, oh, this soul belonged to me and God, you have taken it away. Who said it belonged to you? Our own misconception, our own delusive thought. We start to think that the people around us belong to us. Says who? Not one atom of their bodies was created by us. Their soul was not created by us. It is only a false sense of I, me, mine, which makes us think that all of this belongs to us. It doesn't. The sooner we accept this reality, the lesser we shall suffer. That is why it is said, the truth shall set you free. As long as the I, me, mine continue, which is a mirage, which is a falsity, the suffering will not end. And therefore, transcending the ego is the top thing in spirituality. And it will not, you don't have to beat yourself up for it. But just realizing your divine essence in meditation will help to turn down the ego, and you don't want to be identified with it, any longer. God gives us friends and beloved relatives that we may have the opportunity through these relationships to culture elementary love, which is the first stage of expansion beyond self-love towards divine love. But because man becomes attached to dear ones in a limiting way, the divine law takes them away to teach the law of universal love. It is God and God alone who has encased himself as the soul in the many human beings he has created. In order to demonstrate his spirit nature as soul, distinct from the body, the one God who exists in all bodies appears in one form, takes leave of another, reappears in new forms, then again disappears. It follows, therefore, that it is not the body we should love, but the immortal spirit within. Now, this is a very, very deep lesson. And let us try. So we will end today's class with this thought that we should not be falling in love with bodies, but we should, by the sword of discernment, discrimination, by our truth seeking, and by our ability to love, we should try and see what is the power that is enlivening the body which is right in front of me, of my relative, of my friend. Who is this person really? The body is a mere collection of atomic and subatomic particles. What is the real power behind the body? You may say the prana. Then what is the real power behind the prana? You may say, okay, the mind and the intellect is probably in conjunction with prana. But then what is the real power behind the mind and the intellect? So analyze that people around you are just projection of God's consciousness. They are God himself encased in different bodies. And they are there to teach you the lesson of love. And if we were to learn this lesson, quickly, then automatically the need for having bodies outside of us or even our own body will not be there. We will understand our very essence of love itself. We are made of love. We are love itself. Now, how much of that love am I channeling through my daily life? The soul is love. But now I think I am this ego, but to turn the ego towards the soul, I must utilize the soul qualities and become love. That means I must be able to love not only my family, but everyone whom I meet, because all is God. He is all pervading, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. And he is all love. And that is what I have to become. Without judgment, without any, kind of discrimination or dividing people into mine and not mine. When I learn the lesson of love, then, as Kabir Das says, "Dhai akhar prem ka, pade so pandit hoy." So that is our goal. With that thought, we will end today's class and we will send out vibrations of love, blessings, and the power of the Gita to souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, beloved Lord Krishna, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Divine Mother, beloved Lord Krishna, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.